Okay, so I'm back. I've had a chance to install the Ruddo pedals. First thing I'll say is that they are very heavy, and the control input forces that you need to move those rudder pedals, and especially the brakes, that thing needs to be secure. I had this idea in my head that I was just going to put them into my sim to the cockpit I'm building and try them out just to give you a report on how they behave, and no such luck. They had to be screwed down. However, they are very, very solid, and once they're screwed down, they're the closest thing I've ever felt in a simulator to real rudder pedals. So, a couple of things. When you're taxiing and when you're on a takeoff roll, this is what I was using before. CH Pro pedals. The Pro is a total nonsense in that name. These are toy pedals, not Pro pedals. In fairness to CH products, they're reasonably well built. The quality was okay, and they lasted a long time. I've had these pedals for many, many years, and they got the job done. They're certainly, like I said before, better than the alternative. But Pro, they're certainly not. And the problem with these is that when you are taxiing or on a takeoff roll, particularly on a takeoff roll, small inputs can have quite a large effect on the direction of the airplane. And literally with one finger, I can push these. The brakes, there's no resistance at all. They're just toys. It's a little joystick controller, basically. The Ruddo pedals are much more like real pedals in that they're heavy. The forces required to move them are substantial. So when you're on a takeoff roll and you put in a little bit of right rudder, you can put in just a little bit of right rudder. Whereas with this, when you go to do it, you're half deflection before you even know it, and the plane can go into a crazy oscillation. I had some back and forth with Austin from X-Plane, and we talked about this very thing, and I've still yet to verify, but there's been reports of unruly ground handling of aircraft in X-Plane, particularly in the takeoff roll, and I was certainly experiencing that. That's why I reached out to Austin. And these pedals, I believe, were part of the problem there. With the new pedals, I went to do a takeoff roll, and I found I had much more control. So we'll see after a few more flights whether or not this resolves the issue. But initial impressions are very good. What else can I tell you? The pedals come with some additional things that I talked about earlier. These springs can be used to adjust the pedals. So the pedals have a set of springs in them that can be taken out. So I think it's at full max load right now. You can take the springs out, like one spring from each side and one spring from each side of the toe brake. So rudder and toe brake, to make the overall experience a little lighter. If you're flying a very light aircraft that maybe has very little resistance on the rudder, you might want a little less resistance in this. This is pretty heavy right now. So you can remove that and adjust it. And you've got some, I presume these are just extra springs in case maybe the nature of the spring, it flips off and you lose it. You've got an extra spring there. There is software on this thumb drive. The software is designed to interface with Prepared and FSX. The rudder pedals don't really need it. They set up as standard joystick controllers, which is great. That means that in the long term, you're always going to be compatible with any sim that you ever want to use this with. You don't need special drivers. But they do give you some software that interfaces with FSUIPC and with FSX and Prepared, so that you can get even more fine-grained control. My experience so far, there is not any additional software for X-Plane. I used to fly Prepared, I now fly X-Plane. And with with X-Plane, X-Plane saw the controller right away. It came up as Virtual Flight Ruddo pedals, and I was able to calibrate and assign the yaw axis and the toe brakes, no problem, and jumped into the simulator, and things basically just worked as I would have expected. Feel was very good. Doing controlled turns and so on, you know, you just got so much better control of the aircraft. Any negatives I can think of? So far, I really haven't seen any negatives, other than, you know, the pedal pressure might be heavy for some people. You might prefer, and I'm sure with the spring adjustment you can lighten it up. You might prefer a little bit lighter action, but otherwise, I mean, they're really solid pedals. Probably the only downside is the price. They're pretty expensive. I'm not going to say the price. You can go on the website and check. They may adjust their prices as they go. Quite frankly, I think these Pro pedals from CH were probably around $100, something like that. I bought them a long time ago, I don't remember. And I've looked at a lot of other pedals that they're fairly well made, but in my opinion don't simulate real life rudder pedals. The price that I paid for these pedals, it was a lot. They were expensive, but in line with other pedals from companies like PFC and the like. And in my opinion, these are the best pedals that are out there right now. I haven't seen anything better. They might not be to your taste, but in terms of simulating the real feel of an aircraft, having real pedals at your feet, these, in my opinion, are the best out there. So, last thing would be the interaction with Virtual Fly. Very positive experience. The only negative I could say is I went to purchase them, and I went to pay by credit card, and in the payment process, they use a European payment processor that gives you no English in the interface to input your credit card and so on. So that was a bit, not a big deal, but it would have been nice to have had English there. Particularly if anything goes wrong with the processing and you get feedback, you don't get it in English. So opening a web page and, you know, Google Translate, trying to figure out what it is they're saying to you. Other than that, I had very good experience. I had multiple communications with them. They reached out to me, a fellow named David and another Oscar, and they were very good, very responsive. Oscar got back to me within, I think, maybe a week at most of my order being placed, and said that the pedals were shipping. I got the notice the next day, the FedEx tracking number, and 2 days later, 3 days later, they were at my door. So very, very smooth transaction. Well packaged. Nothing much more I have to say. I think I've said it all. So congratulations to the guys at Virtual Fly. I think they've got a great product here, and I hope that if you're considering Ruddo pedals, the Virtual Fly Ruddo pedals, RUDDO, that this might give you some confidence to move forward with your purchase. Good luck.